I joined that support group about broken necks 6 months ago. I was a 34-year-old medical technician. After a minor accident, I struggled with neck pain that wouldn't go away. I thought talking to others might help me feel better. My apartment was dim, messy, but somehow comforting. I just wanted to connect with people who understood. One night I logged into the group chat. I was nervous but eager to share my story. It was awkward at first. After a while someone mentioned a local meetup. I shouldn't have gone, but I felt drawn to it. When I walked into the small cafe, it was quiet. People spoke in hushed tones. They shared their painful experiences, but I noticed how they glanced at each other's necks. It felt strange. I thought about leaving, but part of me wanted to stay. The weeks passed, and I started getting weird messages from the group. They checked in, but it felt off. My neck pain flared up at night, and I felt like something was there, tightening around me. Sometimes I thought I saw people looking at me differently when I was outside. Shadows moved behind me, or so I thought. The support group became increasingly bizarre. I wasn't sure what to think. Was it just in my head? I wondered if I could escape that strange grip before I became part of their stories. One evening, I decided to take a walk. The air felt thick, and I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. I turned a corner and saw a figure standing still. He stared at me, and I couldn't see his face. Something felt familiar about him. I froze. He leaned in, and I noticed a mark on his neck. A chill coursed through me. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet felt heavy. I asked if he was okay, but he didn't answer. Maybe he didn't hear me? I wasn't sure. The night felt heavy, pressing down on my chest. I took a small step back, and then he spoke. "Why are you with them?" My heart raced. I looked around. There was no one else there. That's when it hit me. I was alone. Just him and me. I thought about running, but I didn't. I wanted answers, though I didn't know what those answers meant. Darkness swallowed the street behind me. Then, I felt something tightening around my own neck. I can't explain it. Panic flooded me. I thought I could escape it all, but maybe I was too late. Now I'm not sure if I can leave any of this behind. I think they want me. I'm pretty sure they do. The next day, I tried to shake off the encounter. I didn't want to dwell on that man's words. My mind kept racing back to him, though. Who was he? What did he mean by them? I decided to go back into that cafe. Maybe I could get answers from the group. The atmosphere was different this time. There were more people, but they seemed almost on edge. I took a seat in the corner, where I could observe without being too involved. It felt like everyone was talking just a bit quieter, their words just barely above a whisper. As the meeting progressed, I noticed eyes flickering toward me, unnerving. It was as if they were sharing secret glances, something unspoken passing between them. I felt exposed. I shifted in my seat, rubbing my neck. When it came my turn to share, I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I could be open here anymore. Just then, a woman with short hair and dark circles under her eyes spoke up. "We need to keep her safe," she said, pointing in my direction. The room fell silent. "She doesn't know." Before I could respond, the group leader, an older man with a kind smile, said, "Let's stick to positive affirmations, shall we?" But the words felt forced. It was clear there was more brewing beneath the surface. Then I noticed the mark on the woman's neck. It was similar to the figure's last night. My pulse quickened. What was this connection? After the meeting, I approached her. "What did you mean?" I asked, desperation creeping into my tone. She looked at me with a mixture of pity and concern. "They want to take you," she whispered. "They want everyone in the group." "What do you mean, take me?" My voice trembled. But her expression changed. She looked over my shoulder, and suddenly, she stepped back. "You shouldn't be here. You need to leave, now." Fear gripped me. I turned to leave, but as I did, the cafe door swung open. In walked several members from the group, their faces hard and determined. My heart dropped. Who were they? I felt trapped, like a fly caught in a web. I backed away, but the walls seemed to close in around me. That's when I noticed a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. The same figure from last night stood outside, watching me. His expression was unreadable, but I could see the mark on his neck was even clearer under the cafe's bright lights. Panic surged again. I pushed past people trying to escape the heaviness of the room. I stumbled down the street, gasping for air, but the unease didn't fade. That's when I saw something in my phone screen, an unread message from the group. My finger hovered over it. Should I read it? I pressed it open, and the sudden chilling message sent a jolt through me. We know where you are. The hairs on my neck stood up. They were closer than I thought, and I realized this nightmare wasn't going to end without a fight. I didn't know where to go. The streets felt warped, the buildings leaning in as if they were all part of some grand conspiracy. I rushed into a nearby alley, pressing my back against the cool brick wall. My mind raced. What do they want with me? I couldn't shake the image of that woman, the fear in her eyes. She knew something. Did everyone in that cafe? I pulled out my phone again, scrolling through the group messages. I found another one, this time from a different number. You're being watched. Trust no one. My heart raced. I had to get out of sight. I glanced around. The alley was dimly lit, but to my right I saw a door slightly ajar. It was a storage room. I pushed it open and slipped inside, shutting it quietly behind me. Inside it was dark and musty. Boxes lined the walls, and the air was stale. I could barely make out the shapes around me, but it felt safer than being out there. I leaned against the door, trying to catch my breath. Then I heard it. A faint thump, like footsteps approaching. I held my breath, closing my eyes. They had found me. I waited, my heart thudding in my chest. The sound got closer, and I pressed myself flat against the door, praying it wouldn't creak. A silhouette entered the room, barely illuminated by the light seeping through the crack at the bottom of the door. My heart sank. It was a man. The same one from the cafe, the one with the mark on his neck. He looked around, his eyes scanning the shadows. I felt frozen, caught between the urge to flee and the instinct to stay hidden. I could hear him breathe, measured and calm. She's here, he called out in a low voice. I know you're here. Panic surged again. I couldn't stay. I needed to move. As quietly as I could, I edged toward the back of the storage room. My fingers brushed against something cold and metal, a pipe maybe? I gripped it, feeling the weight of it in my hand. This is pointless, he muttered, stepping further in. You can't hide forever. The others are waiting. Others? My mind reeled at the implication. What did he mean? What were the others? Just as I was about to bolt from the room, I heard a loud bang, another door slamming shut somewhere else in the building. His head snapped toward the sound. Go! He shouted, his voice piercing through my confusion. I didn't need to be told twice. I rushed to the back of the storage room, where I spotted a small window. It was my only chance. I scrambled to it, frantically pushing against it until it gave way. I climbed through, scraping my arms, and fell hard onto the ground outside. Fresh air hit me like a rush of adrenaline, but I couldn't pause. I needed to put distance between us. I glanced back toward the building and saw him standing in the doorway, his face shadowed but focused. The moment was short-lived. I began to run, adrenaline pushing me forward. But where was I going? As I sprinted through the back streets, I reached for my phone. There, another message blinked. They know you're out. Don't trust anyone. Run. I didn't know who to trust, but I knew I had to keep moving. Somewhere in the chaos, something felt off, like I was being pulled into something larger than myself. And I was terrified. But one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. I had to uncover the truth before it was too late. My legs burned as I sprinted through the narrow streets. I didn't know where I was headed, but I felt the pull of panic behind me, urging me onward. The message flickered in my mind. Don't trust anyone. Each shadow seemed to loom larger as I passed. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me. The city felt foreign, like a maze with walls closing in. My breath came in quick bursts. I needed a safe place to think. I turned down another alley, skidding to a halt when I noticed a small door tucked between two buildings. It looked insignificant, almost forgotten. Without hesitation, I pushed it open and slipped inside, heart racing. The room was dim, the air thick with dust and the scent of old wood. I quickly glanced around, spotting an empty desk in one corner with a single chair tipped over beside it. Old papers littered the floor, covered in scribbled notes and strange diagrams. My curiosity piqued despite my fear. I needed to understand all of this. I stepped further inside, trying to remember the man's words. The others are waiting. Who were they? What did they know? As I shifted through the papers, I caught a glimpse of something familiar, an image of a mark on a neck. The same mark the man had. I felt a chill creep up my spine. Then I heard it again, footsteps, muffled and distant. My heart sank. I wasn't alone. I froze, straining to listen. The sound grew nearer, echoing down the narrow corridor outside. I quickly stuffed the papers into my bag and backed toward the door, trying to stay low and silent. But then I noticed a flickering light coming from a gap in the wall. My heart raced as I crept toward it. I peeked through and saw a group of people gathered in what looked like an old meeting room. They were focused on a screen displaying an array of images. My breath hitched when I recognized the mark again. They were discussing it, how it connected people, how it meant you were marked for something dangerous. I wanted to hear more, but movement in the corner of my eye caught my attention. Another figure approached the door behind me. Panic surged. I had to escape. I darted back into the room, my mind racing. I had gotten too close. Whoever they were connected to the man, and I needed to find out why. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from the meeting room. A crash, followed by yelling. My pulse quickened. This was my chance to slip out unnoticed. But as I turned to leave, the door I had entered through swung open. It was him. The man from the cafe, the one with the mark. His expression was set, and his eyes locked onto mine. "Why are you here?" he demanded, confusion and urgency clashing in his voice. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I was trapped between my fear and the need for answers. And there, right at that moment, I realized I wasn't just running away. I was being dragged into something that could change everything. Then, everything went dark. I woke up on the floor, disoriented. A dull pain throbbed in my head. The man stood over me, his brow furrowed with concern. The chaos from before faded into backdrop noise. It felt like I had been unconscious for only a moment, but everything else felt out of time. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice surprisingly soft. I tried to push myself up, but my body protested. "What happened?" I croaked, my throat dry. He hesitated, glancing toward the door. "You fainted. It's safer if you stay down for a moment." I needed answers, but panic clawed at my insides. "What's going on? Who are you?" His gaze darted toward the door. "You're not safe here. They're coming." I felt my stomach drop. "Who's coming?" Before he could answer, the door creaked open and a figure stepped through. It was a woman, her face partially obscured by shadows. Instinct kicked in, and I scrambled backward, my heart racing. "Don't. I'm not here to hurt you." Her voice was calm, and that unsettled me even more. She stepped into the light, revealing the same mark on her neck. My thoughts raced. "You too?" "Listen," she said urgently. "You have to come with us. It's the only way to protect yourself." I shook my head. "No, I don't want to." "Stop," the man snapped, cutting me off. "You have no idea what's going on. Just listen to her." He looked at the woman, and their eyes communicated something I couldn't decipher. Fear mixed with curiosity washed over me. I needed to escape, but it felt like these two might hold the answers I craved. "Who are they?" I demanded, desperation creeping into my voice. "What does that mark mean?" "I'll explain everything," the woman said, standing tall. "But not here. They'll find you if we don't move. We have to go now." Another crash echoed from the corridor, louder this time. I took a deep breath, weighing my options. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, but knowing how lost I felt in this city, they could be my only chance at safety. Finally, I nodded, albeit hesitantly. "Good choice," the man replied, his eyes narrowing as he moved toward the room's exit. As we stepped out into the hallway, I caught a glimpse of the chaos behind us. My heart dropped again. More figures were rushing in, their intentions unclear. "They're here!" the woman hissed. "Run!" the man shouted, grabbing my wrist. We tore down the corridor, the world around me blurring. As we sprinted, the realization hit me. It felt like I was being thrust into a whirlwind of secrets, and there was no telling where it would lead. Then, in a split second, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A door closed just behind us, and a familiar presence loomed, the very man from the cafe. That's when I knew my life was about to change in a way I couldn't begin to prepare for. We dashed through the maze of hallways, the man's grip tightening on my wrist. My mind raced, each pounding heartbeat a reminder of the danger snapping at my heels. I didn't stop to catch my breath. I had to escape. "Where are we going?" I gasped, stumbling slightly as we rounded a corner. "Just keep moving," he shot back, barely looking at me. The look on his face was grim, his jaw clenched in determination. The woman led the way, her movements swift and deliberate. I tried to keep pace, but fear made my limbs feel heavier than usual. What were we running from? The man from the cafe was close behind. I could feel his presence lurking, waiting for the right moment to strike. The corridor opened into a wider area, and the woman halted. She turned to face us, urgency painting her features. "This way. We need to find the stairwell." She pointed down another hall. We followed her instructions, our feet barely making a sound against the floor. I wanted to ask questions, but the lump in my throat made it too hard to talk. Instead, I watched her intently, waiting for any sign of danger. Suddenly the man froze, eyes wide. "What's wrong?" I whispered, my heart racing at his reaction. He tilted his head, listening. "They're close," he murmured. My breath caught. I strained to hear anything beyond the eerie silence, but all I could feel was the low hum of adrenaline. The woman moved toward a door marked with an emergency exit sign, pushing it open just a crack. I huddled close, sensing the urgency in her actions. "We need to hurry," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "There's no telling how much time we have." As we slipped through the door, I caught a glimpse of a pair of shadows darting down the hallway behind us. My heart dropped. "They're coming," I said, panic rising in my throat. "Go, now!" the man commanded, shoving me ahead of him. We plunged down a flight of stairs, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the narrow space. The air felt cooler here, but I could still sense the heaviness of the chaos that followed us. I had no idea where we were headed, only that stopping was not an option. "Keep going!" the woman urged, her voice sharp, cutting through my fear. Suddenly, she stumbled, almost losing her balance. I reached out to steady her when I noticed something glimmer on her neck, a ring bearing the same symbol as the mark she shared with the man. "Wait!" I exclaimed, needing to know more. "What does that mark mean?" "It's a sign," she replied, regaining her footing. "A warning that we crave truth, and it binds us to a mission." Before I could ask what she meant, the floor trembled. The sound of footsteps approached, louder and closer than before. I felt the weight of their presence pushing in on us. "Run! Now!" the man shouted, shoving me toward the exit at the bottom of the stairs. I pressed forward, adrenaline surging through my veins. Then, just as we reached the door, I felt a cold breeze rush past me and chills crawled over my skin. That's when I saw it, a flicker of movement in my peripheral vision. Someone was waiting for us on the other side. My breath hitched. The moment I turned to face it, everything went dark. My eyes fluttered open, and I gasped. The darkness enveloped me, thick and suffocating. I pushed myself up, heart racing, my senses alert. Where was I? The scent of damp concrete filled my nostrils, faint and oppressive. Panic surged as I realized I was alone. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing off the walls. No response. I scrambled to my feet, feeling along the wall for any trace of light or door. My fingers brushed against the cool surface, and I started to move, tentative but determined. The adrenaline from earlier still buzzed through me, but the silence was disorienting. "Are you okay?" A voice cut through the stillness, warm and familiar. I jerked back, heart thudding harder. "Who's there?" I stammered, turning toward the sound. A figure emerged from the shadows, relief crashing over me as I recognized the woman. Her face was etched with concern. "Thank goodness you're awake. I thought—" She paused, looking around. "We lost you for a moment." "Lost me? What happened?" I asked, struggling to piece it all together. "Your friend pushed you through the door, but when I followed, I found you out cold." She stepped closer, her expression now serious. "You passed out from the energy of the encounter." My head spun. "The encounter? What do you mean?" "Something made the space unstable. It's rare, but it happens. We all felt the pull," she explained, glancing nervously back into the dark. "We were running away, but they're still looking for us." At her words, a chill ran down my spine. They. I had thought the danger was behind us. "What do you mean they're looking for us?" "They want the mark." She touched her necklace, the symbol glinting eerily in the dimness. "They believe it holds power, dark power." Before I could respond, the air shifted. A low rumble echoed in the distance, vibrating through the concrete floor. I felt it deep in my bones. "What was that?" I stared at her. "They've found us," she whispered, fear flashing across her face. "We need to move, now." We dashed down the corridor, my feet pounding against the cold ground. The woman led the way, but I felt the gnawing question in my gut. Who were these people chasing us, and why did they want the mark? Suddenly, an explosion of light erupted behind us, illuminating the space. I turned, and my stomach dropped. A group of shadowy figures stood at the mouth of the hall, eyes glinting like predators as they advanced. "Run!" I shouted. As we fled, I caught a glimpse of the male figure from before, the man from the cafe. But now he was no longer a stranger in the shadows. He was very much part of the danger we faced. With darkness swallowing us again, I felt the reckoning of thoughts racing ahead. I needed answers, but first, I had to survive. "Don't look back," the woman urged. I clenched my jaw as the pounding feet grew louder. Whatever was to come next, I had to face it. As we turned a corner, something cold and metallic grazed my arm, just enough to jar me to a halt. I looked down, seeing a piece of the man's necklace laying abandoned on the ground. I reached for it, but the ground trembled again. The decision to pick it up fell away as the shadows chased us yet again, relentless in their pursuit. That's when I heard a loud crash. Something, or someone, was blocking our escape. I skidded to a stop, nearly colliding with the woman as she halted before the wall. The crash echoed ominously, reverberating through the corridor. I could feel my pulse quickening, each heartbeat a countdown. "What now?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over the rising panic. Her eyes darted around, her face a mask of uncertainty. "We can't go back. We need to find another way." "Can we climb?" I asked, eyeing the wall. It was too smooth, too high, but desperation clouded my judgment. "Not here. There was a side door we passed. We have to backtrack." She turned, and we moved together, each step growing heavier as the shadows loomed closer, their whispers reaching my ears. I shuddered at the thought of the figures behind us, relentless as they pursued our every move. As we retraced our steps, I saw the glint of metal out of the corner of my eye again. It was another piece of the man's necklace. I hesitated, torn between the urge to grab it and the dire need to escape. "Don't stop," she said, her voice taut with urgency. Trust me, we can't draw any more attention." I swallowed hard and forced myself to keep moving. The hallway twisted and turned, each corner bringing us closer to the unknown. The faint sound of shuffling footsteps echoed through the shadows, mingling with my rising dread. Finally, we reached the side door. I pushed against it. It wouldn't budge. "Here, let me," she said, shoving her shoulder against the heavy wood. It creaked, but didn't open. "More force," I grunted, stepping beside her. We both leaned into it, and just as we did, the door warped slightly. "It's locked," she gasped, desperation creeping into her voice. "Then break it down." I planted my feet, ready to use my weight. But before we could make another move, I heard laughter, a low, mocking sound that sent chills through my spine. The shadows were closer now, their shapes shifting and melding together, a wall of darkness with eyes that seemed to glint with malice. "Let's find another way," I urged, my heart pounding in my chest. "Wait! Here!" She pointed to a tiny window set high in the wall. I squinted, gauging the height. "You think we can fit through there?" "It's better than being caught," she said, determination in her eyes. With a deep breath, I turned towards the sound of laughter, knowing we had little time. "On 3. 1, 2... A loud thud reverberated behind us. The door had finally given way, splintering open. "Go!" I yelled, shoving her toward the window. "I'll hold them off." "No!" she protested, but I was already pushing her upward. "Just go!" A part of me screamed in protest as I turned to face the incoming shadows. In that moment, something dawned on me. The laughter was coming from someone I didn't know, someone who likely held all the answers I needed. That's when I realized. I recognized that voice. It belonged to the man from the cafe. I turned just in time to see the first of the shadows spill through the broken door. My heart raced, pumping adrenaline into my veins. I could feel the weight of the darkness pressing against me as I braced myself. "Go!" I shouted again, still hoping she had made it through the window. I took a few steps forward to confront the figures emerging from the void. Their shapes twisted and stretched, each grotesque movement sending a wave of nausea through me. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking despite my efforts to sound strong. They drew closer, and with each step, I could hear the laughter growing clearer, echoing off the walls, taunting me. "Look who decided to play hero," one of them sneered as he stepped into the dim light. He looked just like the man from the cafe, but there was something off, something sinister lingering in his gaze. "You should have let her go, little bird." I took a step back, fear clawing at my chest. "What do you want?" The laughter swelled, a chorus of mocking voices surrounding me. "What we want," the man said. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough. Tell me, how does it feel to be hunted, to realize how insignificant you are?" I clenched my fists, forcing back the fear. "You won't get me," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. "Sweet delusions," he chuckled as if my words were a joke. "But you're already in too deep." Suddenly, everything shifted. The shadows behind him quivered as if they were alive, and before I could react, they surged forward, dissolving into one swirling mass. It was like watching a storm gather, dark and swelling, and I knew I had to move. I dashed toward the wall, scanning for any other escape routes. But then I heard her voice from above. "I'm through! Hurry!" I shot one last terrified glance at the man. His smile faded, twisted by anger, a moment that seemed to stretch in time. "Come here," he hissed. Just then, the wind whipped through the corridor, gusting like a warning. I gripped the edge of the window and hoisted myself up, legs dangling as I scrambled for purchase. The laughter faded into a growl, shaking the air with a new threat. I kicked my foot up toward her hand, desperate to connect. "I can't hold on much longer," she called, her voice strained, urgent. "Just pull," I shouted back, feeling the darkness wrap around my ankles, chilling my skin. The man lunged, and I felt a sharp tug at my foot, just as I felt her fingers clamp around my wrist. I was yanked up, bursting through the window, just as the shadows grasped at my heels. I tumbled onto the ground outside, landing with a thud. Pain shot through my side, but I forced myself to roll aside, and then I was pulling her down with me, out of sight. "What was that?" she gasped, looking around frantically. "The man from the cafe," I panted, still catching my breath. "He's after us." But before I could finish, an overwhelming sensation surged through me, a cold dread sensing that we were not out of danger yet. That laughter echoed behind us, growing louder. That was when I saw them, a collective silhouette gathering at the foot of the window. They wouldn't stop until they had us. I stumbled to my feet, urgency gripping me like a vice. "We need to go," I shouted, eyeing the gathering darkness at the window. Its shape loomed large, casting shadows that writhed and flickered like hungry hands. "Where?" she gasped, her eyes darting around. The alley was narrow, filled with debris and dimly lit. No clear escape route. Panic surged again, echoing in my chest as I weighed our options. "Down the alley!" I pointed, my instincts guiding me as I sprinted toward the opening that led to the street beyond. The echoes of laughter followed us, almost taunting in their persistence. We dashed into the alley with our breaths loud in our ears, the chill of the night clinging to us as if warning us to turn back. I ran, adrenaline pushing me forward, glancing back to see if anything followed. Shadows danced along the walls, becoming strangely animated. "Don't look back!" I yelled over my shoulder as we rounded a corner too quickly. The alley twisted deeper into obscurity, the walls closing in, the outside world nearly forgotten. I could feel my heart pounding hard against my ribcage, urging me on, but uncertainty crept in. Was it instinct or fear that drove me? "Here!" I yelled, spotting what looked like an old entrance to a subway station. The stairs descending were barely illuminated, but it promised shelter. The woman caught up to me, her breath coming in rapid bursts. We stumbled into the space, and as the doors slammed shut, it felt like breaking the surface of dark water. "Are we safe?" she whispered, her eyes darting nervously. "We have to be," I muttered, leaning against the door, listening for any footsteps. Silence enveloped us, thick and suffocating, my mind racing to catch up with our escape. I lit up my phone, its light cutting through the dark. The staircase led down to tracks that had long seen no trains. The ground was covered in dust and debris, remnants of something that felt forgotten. Suddenly, everything felt heavy, the very air thick with anticipation. "Why do they want us?" I asked, trying to break the tense silence. The shadows danced as I tried to draw closer to her. "The mark," she breathed, her voice low. "It's tied to something ancient. Something they want to harness." "What do you mean? Tied to what?" I pressed, the confusion swirling around my mind like curling smoke. She took a deep breath, glancing around. "It's a symbol of power, of potential. Those who bear it are believed to hold more than mere existence. It's the key to revealing secrets long buried." It was overwhelming. "Secrets? From what?" "From another world," she replied with a dark seriousness. "What you saw back at the cafe was merely the surface. Once you're marked, there are those that won't let you go." "What have I gotten myself into?" I lamented, raking my hands through my hair. Before she could answer, the ground trembled beneath us, and I felt the shadow of growing dread take shape in my stomach. The sound of footsteps echoed, low and purposeful, approaching from the staircase we had just descended. "Quick!" I hissed, rushing toward a wall where a narrow path seemed to wind deeper into the structure beside the tracks. It was a tight squeeze, but we had little choice. The fear had hardened into determination as we slipped into the opening just as the shadows emerged at the threshold. There was an uncomfortable sensation of being watched, even as we navigated through what felt like a labyrinth of old tunnels. My breath echoed in the tight quarters, the air stale and laden with secrets. The urgency thrummed in my veins. We found ourselves in a large, open chamber. Flickers of dim light illuminated the walls, revealing images of past events and people, their faces twisted in fear, adorned with identical marks on their necks. The realization hit me like a punch. "They've been here before," I murmured, running my fingers along the images. "They're a part of this, just like us," she said sorrowfully, her gaze lingering on the faces. Before I could say anything else, the walls suddenly vibrated with an ominous sound, a rumble reverberating through the foundation. I turned to meet her eye, the apprehension mirrored in her expression. They were close. "Which way?" I asked, scanning the open chamber for an exit. My instincts flared. "Do they come this way?" "Sometimes," she responded, fidgeting anxiously. "We have a chance." She pointed toward an archway in the far corner, dim light flickering beyond it. "Let's go." We sprinted toward the opening, feeling the weight of the choosing. I could hear them closing in, almost savoring our pursuit. As we dashed through the archway, the darkness swallowed us again, the sense that we might not be able to return climbing higher. But as I ran, a question hung in the air. Who were they, and would I ever really be free from this chase or that whispering laughter? We spilled into another narrow passage, and I turned to see her face mixed with resolve and fear. The weight of uncertainty settled like a shadow as we pushed ahead into the unknown. "I moved to a different city after that," I'd finally disclose when pressed to talk about it. "Sometimes I wonder if they're still out there, watching, waiting. I don't even know if what happened was real or if I just lost my mind. But mostly, I try not to think about it."